Good evening. Welcome to the Alan Osborne Show. It's April 14th. It's tax day. And guess what? We're still on the April 9th BCC meeting. Now, this isn't uh, Boots' Mess Part 3, because if 1 and 2 didn't convince you that Boots has no business being a commissioner, well, then you're probably in the McCormick camp for the next election, and there's no use in us having any more discussions. But part 3 was the beginning of the meetings before the Fred Tricker lynching, or the attempted Fred Tricker lynching. Anyway, the Great Southern Exposure show there, I just don't even know what to think out of it. But, since those couple of shows and here recently, what's gone on is what's really interesting is the commission race has changed. Chaz Galloway pulled out of the race. Oh, a.k.a. John Walton, a.k.a. Running from the IRS, and a bunch of other things. But the articles that many of you have received from this place was probably gotten off emails that were stolen when somebody like Chaz was a county employee. In fact, we've produced information that the county knew that Chaz put his private information in emails, like little naked pictures. Back in 21, we knew that the county paid for him to have these subscriptions to all these media sources and all this kind of thing, because there's a report out on it, which begs the question, if they knew Chaz did this, why did they investigate once again Joe Turner and fire Quinn Robertson over it? And what happened to those investigations? Didn't they already have one? You just can't make this shit up. So Chaz has gone out on an article attacking everybody from developers like Jay Odom to Barbara Morano, who's running for commissioner, Teddy Stewart, me. Oh, yeah, attack me. I'm not running for any office. Why should they be worried about the poor old Alan Osborne show? But we're going to cover some of that because, according to that show, I had a home with illicit funds, but there's no paperwork of that. I'll tell you what there is paperwork on. There's proof that I was taken to court on the allegations made by Walton County attorneys. In fact, a contract attorney that's handling the Horsepower Pavilion lawsuit. I was in a lawsuit with the county, and the county had an epiphany, said they had evidence they had obtained. And they told the U.S. attorney, oh, Alan there, we got evidence against him, and so the U.S. attorney acted. And just like the Horsepower Pavilion, these same contractor attorneys, the Warner Law Firm, that's kept Kate and Fred tied up, they got the U.S. attorney to tie me up for almost 4 years and $180,000. And you know what that got me? It got me a dismissal with prejudice because the judge said they didn't have any evidence whatsoever, but they had the power of government to allege it. Just like they alleged those investigations on Joe and Quinn. Where are they? Where are these investigations that they're doing? They're not doing them. I filed a complaint on Boots breaking a judge's order with the sheriff's department. Where's that investigation? I tell you what's evident is how worried they are about people like me and Suzanne. We're not running for anything. We're just out here telling the truth. But the truth is you're witnessing bad government across the country. And it starts fixing it right here at the local issue. Bad government created the CU issue. It wasn't people buying the beach as part of their dreams in life. Nobody dreamed of coming here and taking somebody's beach rights. I don't believe that for a minute. I'm not a beachfront owner. I own some access to a beach that I don't use. I like to fish in the bay that's being polluted by lies of the commission, which it speaks of choo-choo. If John Walton's so interested in this, who's behind John Walton? Will the real John Walton stand up? Chaz, why in the world would you care? You've dropped out of the race. But the last thing Chaz says in his podcast, what I'm told, is he supports Trey Nick. Is there anything else you need to know other than he's behind Trey Nick and ShiTman's probably behind Chaz? Hey, Gary, we know why you got to have Trey. The same reason Mac and them had to have Quinn fired, because the development pockets are the key to this county for just a very few people, and the masses are being sacrificed for the profits in a few pockets. That's the way I see it on the Allen Osborne. But choo-choo, the Riding Boots McCormick's ass train is about to pull into the station, and we're coming out on the Gary, Mac, Chaz, all these people that Trey, we'll call it the Trey Nick game, and Trey's Build Back Boner campaign, where you too can be a commissioner and carry naked people to a lawyer's house. You can hire your buddies. You can hire one of your friends who was fired from the county to do a report on how the county should be better, and you can create a phony baloney job for Scott Brannon. You know, you can dump French fry grease in the bay on the Build Back Boner campaign for Trey. That's how it is on the Allen Osborne show. But that's enough about where we're at in local politics. And like I say, bend over Trey, bend over Chaz and ShiTman and Mac, and all you people think that it doesn't matter, that everybody's starting to see what's going on. So what we're going to do now is skip back to the April 9th shit show of the BCC, and we're going to get into the golf course. And here's what you need to know. You know, the golf course comes up 2 or 3 times, but I want you to listen to what's said here. Now, surely the commissioners had to buy insurance. I agree with what Brad says on that. They had to because they have it. But why are we running a business? Commissioner Johns clearly states, and nobody contradicts her, that the golf course has lost at least another $500,000 since October. And that they sell liquor, which means this to all you parents out there. We sell subsidized alcohol and snacks and golf to grown people while your children don't have a place to play ball. While you firefighters decide between fire equipment or a well. We can lose $3,000 a day, as I believe we're about close to being on track for this year. Let's think about that. If we're willing as a county to lose $3,000 a day on something, shouldn't it be kids' sports? Shouldn't it be uniforms for all them kids? Think about it. $3,000 a day, you can outfit a kids' team with the uniforms. I believe you still can. So in 60 days, we could have 60 teams of free uniforms for lots of kids that can't afford for all that. I mean, how long does it take to buy some more ball fields at $3,000 payments a day? That's over $1 million a year, right? Or around that. So the BCC doesn't bat an eye, but you, the voters, should be letting them know that subsidized alcohol for adults is not more important than the needs of the people and the children of Walton County. And how can you argue over the things that you've spent money on? And you can't see this in front of your face. So without further ado, let's skip to the show and we'll start out on it and take a break, and I'll slow things down as needed. Here we go. So what's happened? The BCC is about to pick up after the break, and we're going to have a break. We've been talking about the golf course. We're about to have the commissioner's going to talk, and we're going to get some public comments. Boots is obviously not here right now. He's somewhere preparing whatever he's doing in preparation for about to lose his mind on Fred Tricker. So he's over there talking to the wall, but we're going to get this thing underway. Let's go here.
Mr. Sunday.
Next item, Commissioners, is item number 32, request to approve the liability policy documents with Mount Vernon Fire Insurance Company for the Eagle Springs Golf Course, and delegates its signature authority to the Chief Financial Officer for these policies upon approval. And I do want to mention that this is the liability insurance that is related to the liquor license at Eagle Springs Grill.
Motion to approve. We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the board?
I'd just like to say that I'm fundamentally opposed to this. I'm not in favor of having a liquor license, and so I'm not in favor of having a selling liquor at the Eagle Springs Golf Course. So.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, sir. My motion was not to encourage or disencourage. It's just that we do have a liquor license and there's insurance required at this time.
Okay.
How much is this? $1,313.55 annually. Thank you.
Any more discussion of the board? Any discussion from the audience? Mr. Osborne.
Okay, so here's what's going on. Earlier in the day, we discussed extending a vend and serve program to run Eagle Springs Golf Course. So Eagle Springs, bottom line, was on the agenda 3 times. Now, I'm with the commissioners that they had to pay for the insurance, but like I said, this issue is about subsidizing some people's losing money enterprise. This place never made money before, and somebody was willing to turn it over to the county basically for nothing because it lost money. It's not going to make money the way they run it, and they don't seem to care. Danny and Boots and all them looking down. Tony has to exempt himself from it because his son owns property on the golf course. That's right. You can't make this shit up. Tony says he didn't vote on it, but he volunteered to give Platt money from District 5, who's dying for infrastructure. Some of your Platt money bought sprinklers in the Eagle Springs golf course. If you didn't know that, you should ask him about that and ask Miss Morano what she thinks of it. So we're going to go into public comment. I agree with Commissioner Drake and even with Boots for Brains that they got to have insurance if they're selling liquor. But the question is, why are they selling liquor and why are we selling it for a loss? We sell golf for a loss, snacks for a loss, and food and labor and liquor for a loss. And this is not going to stop. And you, the public, have got to decide, is this more important than the other needs of this county? I say not. We continue.
For the record, Alan Osborne, I'd just like to say on this that I'm fundamentally opposed to this also. You know, the numbers don't lie. You spent $500,000 and this is part of that money that we've lost. And here we are arguing over whether a fire department should choose between equipment or a well for the community. And I choose that they get all the equipment and the well and that we don't subsidize adults going to have fun and drink liquor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Leitner. Bobby, could you close that door, please?
You can't close the door on the cover.
I'll try to do better this time.
Okay, sorry.
Randy Lightner, Lightner. I just want to say that I as well am opposed to the liquor license in the restaurant. It just at some point you've got to pull the plug. Get rid of the liquor license at the very least. Try to show us in some way that you're trying to work with us. If no one else wants to take out that liquor license and run a bar at the golf course, there's a reason for it. The same reason no one has wanted to for any period of time for 40 years. It's not profitable unless you're spending taxpayer money to pay for it. So I would just ask that, I know you probably have to do this today, but in the future, that you just start to listen to us, show us that you care about what we're saying, and get rid of the liquor license and start trying to find a way to make this restaurant profitable or get rid of it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Anyone else? Ms. Harris.
Suzanne Harris, I'm speaking for Edgewater Beach Condominiums, okay? Edgewater has a liquor license. We have 176 units on the beach, directly on the beach. We have a liquor license and we have a food and beverage license. We serve all kind of food. This insurance policy is not outrageous for the golf course. It's not any more than Edgewater's policy is. The only difference I see here is Edgewater makes a hell of a lot of money to put in our budget on food and liquor, and y'all aren't. So somewhere, somebody needs to get a golf course consultant to come in and look at your whole thing. If I lost $500,000 in 6 months in Edgewater's budget, it'd be a real bad day. So
Look at old Tony swiveling and stuff, and Danny going, why do we got to... Even the deputy knows that this is stupid. This is Democrat liberal shit to the bone. We're subsidizing a snack bar and a golf course at over $1 million loss a year. And then there's fools out there saying, but the kids for school use it. Look what we could do for children's sports with an extra $1 million and some a year. This is ridiculous. If we're going to spend money like this, it ought to be on our youth and our retirees, not on people keeping a golf course that's been losing money for as long as anybody can remember, which is why the county got it for nothing. And nothing turned out to be like a free dog. Very, very expensive.
What I'm saying is there are golf course consultants that come in and they look at all of your stuff and they teach you how to make money. And if I were y'all, the next meeting, I would put on the agenda to look for a golf course consultant. I'd let them see how much other people make with the liquor license at golf courses, at small golf courses like y'all have, and why y'all are losing money in the winter, because my winter guests are paying a fortune to play golf. And we give them information when they check in, because a lot of them would rather play golf, but they will go to the Okaloosa golf course rather than drive to Defuniak because of the Mid-Bay Bridge. But you all aren't marketing your golf course to the winter people. That's why you're losing money in the winter.
Interesting. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
What I wanted to discuss, we asked for discussion before we go ahead, but let's.
Tony's mad. You see him throw his papers down. All in favor? Brad says, I want to talk about this based on what the people said. And that's the last thing that Tony, look at Tony and Clay, almost like the Boobsy twins. They do not want the public. We're not worth it. They don't realize they work for us, that all those tax dollars come from people in the viewing audience or the voters or the property owners. These people are not creating a business. A hint to the few that don't understand it. Government doesn't make any money. They only take money from you and redistribute it. That's how it works. So go ahead, Brad. Tony's mad, but go ahead.
So I think there are two separate discussions or two separate conversations here. So one is, I guess we go back to like philosophically, like what maybe your preference is. Is your preference to operate a restaurant, for us to operate a restaurant or not operate a restaurant? Is our preference to sell beverages or not sell beverages? But today I think it's very important and to say exactly what Commissioner McCormick said. The item before us today is not that discussion on whether we should or whether we shouldn't. We have this potential liability that exists, and so we have to be prudent in that, recognizing that we do have ownership of this. For $100 a month, we have the opportunity for someone to provide coverage to give us protection in case something bad happens. So if we vote for this today, you're saying, all right, it's okay to spend $100 a month to make sure that if something happens at the golf course, they're not coming back to us and saying, all right, now there's $1 million worth of liability damages that were encumbered. Now you, Walton County Board of Commissioners, you've been charged with another lawsuit because the court deems that you failed, that you were negligent in your responsibilities to provide a safe environment. Something happens and we don't have insurance. That goes from $100 a month to who knows what the cost of the lawsuit is. Okay, so that's one issue. We have to decide whether or not we as a board are going to spend $100 a month to have that protection. The second issue is, okay, for another discussion, whether or not, and I think most of the comments that were made were whether or not it should exist in the first place. Okay, if at some point we want to have that discussion, we can. But for today, we have to decide whether or not it's prudent, if it's in the interest of the board, the taxpayers, the citizens, to make sure that we have adequate coverage in case something happens because of an asset that we have ownership of. The second thing I kind of like to mention just today is that at some point we got to figure out how to deal with the restaurant, because it is a cost driver. And Ms. Harris mentioned a golf course consultant. I do agree with that. When we were in Washington, D.C. for the National Counties Conference, I had an opportunity to talk with the county manager over in Port St. Joe. Port St. Joe, the county of Port St. Joe owns a golf course. very similar to ours, about the same membership levels, but they're making $100,000 a year on their golf course. They also have a restaurant and bar. So I think maybe today is a good segue to like introduce that concept, to have our staff, have Shane, have Melissa, have whoever the necessary.
Let me break that down for you. If the Panama City golf course is making over $100,000 a year, that means that the Funiac Springs golf course would have to make $1.3 million a year. If it lost $1.2 million in order to make a $100,000 profit, it's going to have to first recover $1.2 million and then make a $100,000 profit. Does anybody see the math here? Why it's never going to work? We're not suddenly going to make another $1.2, $1.3 million, and everybody knows it. I'm not sure. Danny over there, he knows it. He just doesn't want to talk about it. Boots is over there saying, I think he's saying I like cookies or something. He doesn't know. Anyway, let's go forward. I just wanted to point out the math that Brad's discussing. When I take that same math that Brad's discussing and I apply it to the negative that's got the hole that's got to be filled before we're above ground. See, we're deep down in a hole. We've got to fill it level before we can build a $100,000 mound on which to stand upon and beat our chest. We're not there yet.
Stakeholders are internally to reach out to Fort St. Joe, have an opportunity to look at their books, say, all right, what are you guys doing? What can we do over here? Who are you marketing? How are you marketing? Are we going in the right direction? You know, to evaluate like what it is you're doing. You're profitable at $100,000 a year, and we're losing a significant amount of money. So I just kind of want to open that up to be thinking about, and maybe we could reach out to some of our neighbors that are doing this. But for today,
Mr. Drake, I think that's what we gave Mr. Sunday and staff to work on in the last discussion we had about it.
And that's some of the part you missed. Basically, they gave the chief financial officer, Melissa Thompson and Stan Sunday, in nice words, they went, y'all better go figure this out or this sucker's getting axed. So we gave them the full authority to go figure it out. Once again, Stan, another shit show dumped in your lap. Let's see what you do with it.
The golf course, and I agree with you. And I agree with you that today we have to protect the county's best interest.
I agree with that we do have to protect the county. As much as I don't like it, you're absolutely right. This is something that we need to look at in the future, very near future. And I do like the idea of a golf course consultant to find out, what it is that we're doing wrong that we could do better and make it more balanced. And but I don't want to put the county at risk by not having insurance. So.
Okay. Anything else? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. 4-0 with one abstention, and that's me. Mr. Atkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 33 is an update and a request for direction regarding the proposed county attorney scope of services. On March 12th, the board directed staff.
So basically, Clay is going to update them on where we are on the county attorney. Well, Clay, the county attorney, how many lawsuits has he got us into? Him and Boots are being sued personally 3 or 4 times that I'm aware of. I mean, Clay's got a bar complaint against him. He's doing all this stuff that's in question. Look at the board. And basically Clay's advising them on how to get rid of him. But who wants to follow in Clay's shoes? He made $800 and some thousand as a temporary attorney. And what are we paying people? So just listen to this crap. And in fact, it's not even worth, well, let's do a little bit of Clay pontificating, but I can't stand but so much, and we'll get to the public comment on it.
Bring back scope of services and minimum qualifications for county attorney services. You have in front of you documents that have been drafted by both purchasing and procurement and by Mr. Sunday to give you some food for thought. There are a couple different ways this can be done.
Then why ain't Mr. Sunday briefing those if that's who drew them up? Go ahead, Penguin.
Comments I'd like to make to the board as you consider this, and we can have some discussion today so you can decide what we need to pull them up and bring back. I think the first thing is to determine your minimum qualifications. You need to have a well-defined scope of services. The best example.
We're going to pause for just a second and see if any of this is worth listening to, as I have to listen to it again. And then we're going to get into the public comment of it. So hang on.
I'd like to make to the board is you consider this, and we can have some discussion.
Here we go. Listen to him.
What we need to pull up and bring back. I think the first thing is to determine your minimum qualifications. You need to have a well-defined scope of services. The best example I would give you on that is...
What that means is I want to write this in such a way as when I'm not the county attorney, I can come make that person do anything I want based on the scope of services of his job. And that way I'll be able to tell him what to do as I build this clientele, as I control the county like I've controlled it before. I've hired most of the people that are now new to the legal section, and we've been sued by some of the other people that had to leave. So here, that's the scope of services that Clay's probably looking for. But go ahead, Clay.
If it is your contemplation that an attorney or a law firm choosing to bring in to represent the county is going to handle all, or at least the vast majority of litigation this county incurs that is not insurance covered, you would necessarily require a minimum qualification of some litigation experience. If you do not, and you expect them to be able to farm it out, as many county attorneys have done in the past, where they just engage a law firm to handle every lawsuit that comes up that's not insurance covered, it's wholly irrelevant whether that person has ever tried a case before a court of law in their life. So that's just one such example, and so that's why the focus today really needs to be on the scope of services you're looking for. The other comment I would broadly make is the board, I'm not looking for a final answer today because this is the first time you're hearing this, the board truly does need to consider the role it expects of its existing county attorney's office. Do you intend or do you expect that we would still have an office of the county attorney where you would have in-house assistant county attorneys that would be available for staff matters?
Well, my understanding, besides the land use attorney, is that we have 3 attorneys, Clay and 2 other ones. You know, you saw the stick who never said a word as Fred Tricker was being abused. And, you know, Frankie White, she was Boots' cheerleader, Uriah's cheerleader for that crap that happened up there. What the hell's she doing? Let's think about this. For what they paid Clay, Frankie, and Fred, or whatever his name is, Matthew, whoever, I don't even know what his name is. That's how relevant he is. And Clay was back at the Planning Commission this week. They're probably paying the 3 of them about $1.2 million. Well, if we paid the lead attorney $500,000 and we paid the other 2, you know, $350 each, we'd have a hell of a legal team. But instead, we paid Clay $800,000 to make a mess of it and get our legal matrix where his name's personally all over it. I can't remember when the county attorney was named personally in a lawsuit, and I think he is in 3 or 4 right now. Maybe that should be in the scope of services, that you don't have to be a crook. And you have to be willing to not make yourself independently wealthy by controlling everything in the state. Look at Brad's hand on his face. He's like, oh, I'm going to have to listen to Clay tell us what we need, and he got us into this mess. You can't make the shit up. Go ahead, Clay.
Employees, paralegals, secretaries, things of that nature. And so that needs to be made very clear to whomever, be it a person or a firm you are soliciting services from. Certainly a full-service law firm may say we have our own paralegals, we have our own staff, we don't want to defer to somebody that's not sitting right there in the office with us. If you want to move a contracts manager or an admin, go ahead and do it. It doesn't need to be in the legal department. They may similarly say they don't have desire to work directly with assistant county attorneys. But whether someone does or doesn't have that desire should be dictated by the proposal that you're putting forth. So I'll defer to Mr. Sunday and Melissa on any feedback they have on some.
If you haven't seen this now, what's about to go down is because we haven't got anybody that said they want to be the county attorney, and we're advertising it crappy, and they don't even know how much money they're going to make, and they'd have to follow Clay, blah, 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 blah. they're just laying out that they're going to hire some big firm just to take over everything. More taxpayer money, and Clay wants to make sure it's a firm that he's already fed business to from the county or something. That way they like him. Clay's got to figure out how he stays in the middle of it and keeps the same phony baloney people pulling the strings of developers and lawyers just eating Walton County alive. The lifestyle, the citizens, the tax money. Folks, we're in the top 10 of the nation. We ought to have everything, and we're failing at almost everything except, and we're even about to run out of our natural resources with polluting the bay. So let's take a break for a second. Hold on. Let's hear from Boots real quick on where he's at with the attorney situation.
So, Commissioner McCormick, would you be amenable if we accommodate your request? This is just me speaking for myself, but I would be inclined to accommodate your request in having a public workshop to discuss this particular agenda item. Would you be okay with putting these two scopes of services on the website so that it's out there and understood and recognize that this is kind of a minimal acceptance of what we're looking for, and then go through the public workshop process?
May I respond? Sure, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
As long as it's noted as this could change, because
Recommend.
right. Let me just
Just one second.
No,
Just one second. First of all, what you're asking is not in accordance to our policies. And when we get in trouble with the state, it's when we don't follow our own policy.
Okay, no, educate me. What is the policy?
Yeah. Really, Tony? You're breaking the ordinances and you won't even let us speak. It's hard to make this shit up. I'm glad I played a little bit more of this before I go to public comment. Go ahead, Tony. Phony baloney Tony. Is it going to be Tony or his son running? Who knows? Nobody's pre-qualified there, and Chaz is out. It's just Barbara, I believe, right now. Who's it going to be, Phony Tony? Phony Tony or Phony Tony Jr. with a church? Not a church.
And I guess my question to you is, are you saying to put this out here, advertise the workshop and put these as attachments, or are you saying actually put these out to try to give notice to firms that might want to apply? Because if that's what you want to do, we really need to narrow that scope down and have it,
And you would have to formally approve the procurement document you issue. Is it an RFQ? Is it an RFP? Is it an invitation to negotiate? Is it an invitation to bid? And you would actually have to approve this as part of that procurement document that Melissa would generate. But she is right. If what you're asking is put this up there so it's out there in the workshop spheres, this is the attachment so that you can solicit feedback and opinions from the public or anyone else, then you certainly can do that. But can you go live with a procurement document today? That answers what we're saying is not.
I think Commissioner Drake wants to put a draft out to consider.
Boots has to go to the bathroom.
So he has to accommodate the request of Commissioner McCormick.
Mr. Chairman, that should be easy to do.
Exactly that, Mr. Chairman.
Just go ahead, Mr. McCormick.
I believe public opinion is important, but this gives us the opportunity. Let me tell you what just happened here at the last issue. I came in here
Listen closely.
prepared as best as I can be prepared with a perspective on a certain issue. You may comment by hearing your perspective. I did not think of that completely went, damn, he's right. All right? I just want the opportunity to hear all of y'all's perspective to see if my position is different or not. Yes, it gets the public opinion, but I'm going to be honest with you. I appreciate the input that this board gives, and there's been multiple times that I've come in here based off my own understanding.
Which ain't shit.
Somebody from the audience or somebody from the diocese said something, and I'm like, damn, I didn't think.
This is the same dude that says half the time he comes in here, something somebody says changes his mind, but he doesn't want public comment. Those two are mutually exclusive, dumbass. God. Napoleon Dynamite for president? Is that what you're going to be holding a flag for there, Boots?
About that, and they're right. I just want that opportunity. This is one of the most important jobs.
You're absolutely right.
One of the most important jobs of this county is keeping our butt out of legal situations. And I want to use due diligence, and I want to know your and Donna's and Commissioner Gladwell's and
Everybody's laughing because Boots chose Clay, and Clay has got us the biggest legal matrix ever, and that was Boots and Trey and Mike Barker and all the phony baloney Tonys. Actually, I hate to say it, but even Tony Anderson didn't really want Clay, but he knows that Clay is holding all the skeletons, so he has to keep him now. And Boots wants to hear everybody's input. Good Lord.
Do we need a motion for that?
You've got a motion.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the audience? Ms. Morano?
Any questions from the audience? They just got the document yesterday. Like, how would we know? Okay, Barbara, tell them about this.
Good afternoon, Barbara Morano. I'm excited about the idea of a public workshop, not an executive session. And in this public workshop, we definitely need to see a scope of services. I just looked on the phone, I looked through the agenda. We don't have anything in the audience.
Nope, you didn't show us shit.
I think what you're looking at right now. And if I wanted to know what the scope of services you were truly looking at during these past years, I would have had to send a request for information to HR, etc. So the public is really in the dark about what you want. So I believe what you're both saying is, or what you're all saying is, when you have a public workshop, you want to put basically a scope of services, not an RFQ, so we would know to ask a question. And also, I'm not going to give you a time when to start this, but keep in mind, if it is a public workshop, you want the public to be here. The second idea that I really want you to think about is we need a land use attorney. So we can't go on for another 2 or 3 more
One's
years.
been hired, Miss Morano, one has been hired, Miss Morano,
Oh,
but we
that's
can't talk
wonderful.
about personnel as a matter of public comments because they are a personnel.
So now our interim attorney, our last 3 attorneys, we have the Little Rascals Club created by Clay, left for our legacy. Oh yay!
Well, I can't wait to hear about it. When are we going to hear about that?
Ms. Morales, this is about should we or should we not have a special meeting.
I know that, but I didn't know you.
Well, that's
I really didn't know you were going to have a land use attorney. All right, so yeah.
Now Boosh just said that we throw out stuff that completely changes his mind, but he's so deranged over the upcoming Tricker issue later on that he's already of this mental state.
Let's let Ms. Morano talk, because when you're talking in the audience, we can't hear Ms. Morano.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited about a public workshop, accent on public, and the more information we can have for that, the more interested the people would be. So
And
thank
it's
you.
absolutely public, Ms. Morano. It will absolutely be public.
I know that.
This matter could not be an executive session.
Well, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Osborne.
Oh God, him again.
For the record, Alan Osborne, is it on this agenda item? It's my understanding that we still have advertisements out for a county attorney, not just for these firms. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, the thing that you could action today, or it should be included in the workshops, is how much you're going to spend on it. Because I think your advertisement's spending.
Look at Boots agrees.
$200,000 looking for a county attorney. If you're paying, that's what I was told when I asked.
Well, how much is it, Clay, if I'm wrong?
But if you're paying $800,000 to $900,000 a year now, do you think that your scope of services, that your advertisements is good? If you'd be willing to pay $450, so if you're advertising at a low rate and we're paying 4 times that amount now, maybe you need to adjust the salary on that, and you wouldn't be going to look for a firm. Maybe a good attorney with the right money and half of what you're paying for an interim attorney. We all know what's going on, and the time for action is now. That's ridiculous what we paid for one person, and that should be included in the public workshop.
I just wanted to,
Harumph.
I just wanted to say there's no amount on these particular scope of works that we're looking at right now. There's no dollar amount on there at all.
Maybe there should be.
Anyone else? Sarah?
So I got to whisper to Boots. Boots. Let me tell you. Hey, Boots.
Question for Commissioner McCormick.
let's wait till she finishes.
Tell them, Suzanne.
I think the most important thing is you have two assistant attorneys right now. They each just got a $35,000 a year raise. So they are making, the two of them together are making more right now, I think, than we're paying Clay. So you have two assistant
No, they're not
attorneys.
making that much, but it's a
Not
lot.
only is what I published in the paper that I got from the clerk's office that we paid Clay, but you have another large amount that you're paying two attorneys. Plus you're paying bills enough.
And Suzanne just said what I said. So if Clay's making $800,000 and there's two more attorneys and all these other people in that office making what Clay's making, because they just got huge raises, you know, that we may be spending $1.8 to $2 million a year. So why don't we tell people we're willing to pay for that for a permanent office, or even give ourselves a discount? Maybe only offer up 1.5 to do all that stuff. I bet you we get some takers.
Office. You need to find out a budget, and you also need to look at a firm. A firm has all kind of paralegal.
A budget? This is Walton County. We get sued all the time over carrying naked women and inappropriate comments and denying people permits like Horsepower Pavilion. We get sued for all kind of stuff, and we pay out over it because we got an endless supply of taxpayer money. We just don't have any infrastructure. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Legals, all kind of lawyers, they have everything. And a large firm does a lot of work.
And would probably do it for what Clay's charging.
Many firms here in this county, I think some of you on this thing have already been and talked to a firm about this. I would suggest that y'all look at talk to firms, find out what would they take this for, what would their recommendations be. But the main
Tony's looking around the room because he knows he did it. If you just go back and watch that, Tony knows he was the one going to look for firms, and he wanted to see if everybody else looked clueless because he knew he was guilty. Go ahead, Suzanne. Tony wasn't ready.
The main thing I'm up here for is to say, y'all need to have this meeting as soon as possible. It doesn't need to drag out to the election.
Amen.
Anyone else? Seeing none?
Mr. Cooper, my question for you was for Commissioner McCormick. Did you want to assign a time limitation on that? Like, did you want to hold a public workshop?
I'm open to whatever's convenient for the board as a whole.
I'm still stewing over Fred. I can't think clearly.
No, there was no preempt on me to try to put this past the election, before the election, or anything.
Nobody said there was, Boots.
I just feel it's such an important question and issue. We need to have that discussion. So whatever the time helps everybody.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Does the board want to talk about a date and time, or would you like for me to come around and work with you to schedule a date?
I think you need to come around so we can all look at our calendars, make sure that everybody can be here.
We'll do that as quickly as possible, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 34 is a request approval and to schedule and advertise a public hearing to adopt an ordinance that's amending portions of
Okay, they're going to amend the LDC again, but that's going to wrap that up for all this phony baloney stuff. So look at the cost of Eagle Springs. Look at the cost of where Clay has taken us and what's going on. So hold on just a second. I'm going to cut that off, not to make it as long as the first two parts of the April 9th show, but you can't make this shit up. You think about that. It takes 3 days just to break down the bullshit that occurred in one meeting. So with this election coming up, let's look at what's going on. Like I said, let's look who's behind who's worried. Alan's not worried. I'll go show up somewhere. I know what the fact. How would you like to be hunted by government? And look at all the people coming forward. Who watched Boots hunt all those people down? Like, you stand up for yourself in America, and you'll be trumped. They'll put a bunch of fucked up charges on you and come after you. But when you point to the truth, like, look at all the wall, people coming through the open borders, you know, that's when they go, huh? That's what you had a great big example of the U.S. government laid right in front of you, and you only got two people up there on your side, people. Look at what's going on. Look at who's saying what. Look who has IRS liens, John Walton, who can't pay them. Look who's out there in trouble in the Godwin clan with John Walton. Or is it the fan club? I can't figure out that weirdo shit. I mean, look what's going on out there. Look who John Walton's writing articles about it. All the people who are outspoken about preserving the county and for better leadership for the people are suddenly evil. Things that make you go, You can't make this shit up. But we're going to be having lots of talks about old Trey, the Build Back Boner campaign. And go watch a planning meeting. Go back and search for videos of the planning meeting and watch Gary ShiTman. Watch these people. Watch these attorneys making this big money on those shows. Do you think that these attorneys are giving the commissioners and the people the best advice based on everything? Did you hear Tony say they're supposed to be following the laws? Really, Tony? We're laying it out there for you and you're not following. You can't make this shit up on the Alan Osborne show, but you can unelect it. And you can pretend to be John Walton. Maybe you'll owe the IRS a lot of money. Or you can be prepared to be a lawyer who wrote bad about a citizen and then didn't even show up for the lynching that you put on, ShiTman. Isn't that a shame? He wrote an ethics complaint because he got turned down on some projects. The power of money and the law, once again demonstrated in Walton County. Y'all keep them straight out there, you hear? They can't keep themselves straight. Tune in next time for other dumbass stunts by the Trey Nix re-election Build Back Boner campaign. Brought to you soon by citizens who give a damn. Till next time, I'll see you then.